Hey there! In the spring, there are so many beautiful budding trees that have really pretty blossoms. And the one I'm going to teach you in this tutorial is the dogwood. There are many different sizes of dogwood blossoms. Some of them are more fuller and larger, and some of them are, the younger ones are more delicate and dainty. So the ones I'm going to teach you in this tutorial are the small, dainty, new baby dogwood blooms. And I have a few of the blossoms here, and these are pink. I'll show you here. And they're very delicate. They're on very small stems, and they're really quick to make, and they're very easy, and they're really pretty on spring flowers. And dogwoods are so popular. Everyone loves them. It's like a sign of spring that comes out when people see dogwood trees blooming. They think that spring is finally here. So this is a great flower to make. It brings happiness to people. They come in all different colors, but I'm going to show you today how to make them in a pale pink. So why don't we get started on this tutorial? Okay, so let's get started. To start off, we're going to need 30 gauge green wire. 30 gauge is the smallest of the wires. The higher the number, the smaller the gauge. So we're going to use 30 gauge green, and we're going to cut them in fourths. As you know, floral wire comes in 14-inch lengths. We'll start out with cutting them in half. So let's line them all up here. And cutting them in half would be a number 7 at 7 inches. And then we will cut these in half, which will be about 3.5 inches. So they don't have to be exactly the same, but because sometimes the floral wire, it's not exactly 14 inches. Sometimes it'll go over that. So they don't have to be exact. That's fine. And we'll get the rest of these cut at 3.5 inches. All right. We have a whole bunch of floral wire cut. Now, the next thing to do with these floral wire before we get started, we're going to make a tiny little hook on the end of each one of these floral wires. So you want to get a pair of pliers, a very fine end pliers. I have a jewelry making toolkit, and these are perfect. So we're going to make a hook on the end of each and every one of these. I have a bunch of these that I'm doing here. Just make as many as you think you're going to need for your project. I actually have an Etsy shop in which I sell these. I sell sugar flowers. So I have an order right now for dogwoods. So it's a perfect opportunity to show you how to make these. They're very simple. They're a great filler flower for arrangements, or they can be bunched together and used by themselves. Or you can make a tree branch out of floral wire and put them on a tree branch. All right, so we have all of ours that are hooked. Now, the next step we're going to need to do is get some floral tape, green floral tape, and we're going to use our floral tape cutter, and we're going to cut it in half. And then when they get cut in half, then you can use a small pair of scissors, and you just cut each half into half. And you have a 1/4 width here, and because we only need a very small amount. Since we're using a 30 gauge wire, it's a very small wire. You don't need a very thick floral tape. All right, so now we're going to just stretch the floral tape to activate the gumminess. And because it is very thin, you want to be careful that you don't stretch it out to the point where you are breaking it. I've done that so many times. So many times. Okay, there we go. All right, we're all stretched out. Then we're going to go one at a time. And we are going to, let me take off my glasses. I can see better for little items without my glasses. So we're going to tape around. And you don't want to tape up the hook. You just want to tape the wire. Just give it a little start there. And then you just go down the wire. And take it off. All right. And again, I'll just show you a couple of these and then I'm going to finish the rest on my own here. And you can finish yours and then we'll be back for actually making the centers. So we're going to go around. And there. Okay, so this is just a repetitive task. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to cover all of my wire with my floral tape. Excuse my green hands. I just colored the gum paste, so I have green hands. All right, so then we'll be back as soon as I finish these. All right, now that we have all of our floral wire with the hooks and they are covered in the green floral tape. Okay, now we are going to make our centers now that we have everything with the floral tape. And I pulled out a little bit of the light green gum paste and I conditioned it a little bit. Now, what I like to do is make a bunch of the little balls at first and then put them in a little baggie to keep them airtight so they don't dry out, and then work on them. It just makes the process so much easier for me. Now, we're going to be using Nicholas Lodge's size guide, or any size guide. Actually, there are several on the market. All right, so we're going to use a number 3 on the size guide for the center. And so what I like to do is I'll get 1 or 2 of them made, and then I start making, just going along and start making a whole bunch of them. So I want to do, that's a good size right there. And there we go. All right, so now I'm going to be making 16 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and make my 16, and then we'll get started making the centers. Okay, so I did 8 of them for now, just to, I don't want to make too many ahead of time because then they'll dry out because they are small. All right, now you're going to need the Nicholas Lodge Katie Sue Designs mold. Now this mold is great for small flowers, and it's the ultimate filler flower mold. You can make so many different flowers out of this. All right, so we are going to get one of our floral wires. I don't think we need this right now. And we're going to open up our edible glue. All right, so then we're going to add just a little bit of edible glue on the end. And we're going to drop our gum paste into the small cavity here. And we're just going to kind of press it in a little bit. Just slightly press it in. And then we have our wire that has that has glue on it. And you're going to push that wire in. You're going to push it in, and then you're going to squeeze this way and squeeze this way. And what that does is it gets the pattern onto the the center. So you have the pattern of the mold. Then we're just going to pinch around. You can get some cornstarch on your fingers, and you just want to lightly pinch it around so it stays on there. And then we're going to put it in our rack, our drying rack to dry. And then we're going to move on to the next one. I'm showing you a couple of them, and then I'm going to go through an assembly line here and get all of these done. And that is the best way to go about when you're making flowers, is do assembly line fashion. Do one step for all of them, and then to do the next step for the next set, and then the next step. So you just continue on kind of an assembly line fashion. So I did that when I created the wires, and now we're going to do the centers. So I have another floral wire, and I'm going to put a little bit of edible glue on it. And then we're going to drop the gum paste into the cavity. And then we're just going to lightly press it in and put our wire in the right in the center. And then we're going to squeeze this way, and we're going to squeeze this way, and by doing that it'll give you the pattern of the mold. And then you just lightly pull it out, and there you have another center. And you just get a little bit of cornstarch, and you just make sure you adhere it to the wire, and that's good to go. And then you are done with that one. And then we move on to the next one. I'll do one more to show you, and then I'm going to do the rest of mine. All right, we'll get our gum paste, and oops, the cavity's way over here. We're going to drop it into this cavity. It's the smaller of the two that look like roses. You drop it in there, and you press it in with your companion tool. You get your wire, the hook end, you put a little bit of edible glue on it, and then you put it into the gum paste. You turn it this way, you turn it this way, and then you pull it out, and then you have another one. Let me see if I can get it up close for you. And then you're ready. We have 3 made. All right, so I'm going to finish these, and then we're going to let our centers dry for about 2 hours. So you want them to dry nice and hard before you add the flour to them. So let's get moving on to our next step. Okay, so now that we have our centers made up here, we're going to work on the flowers. For the flowers, we're going to use a number 7, a loose number 7. A regular number 7 will sit 2/3 on the top and 1/3 on the bottom. Now, a small number 7, you will be able to go right through the hole, the center. So I'm going to roll this, and it's still a little bit too big. You want it to be able to very easily fit through. And that's still a little bit too big, almost. It's just starting to fit through. Actually, that's a pretty good size right there. All right, so we're going to make a bunch of these balls, and I'm going to put them in a bag, so then they will be ready to go for us to use. And see if it fits right through. So you don't have to make every single one of them fit through that hole. You just have to kind of estimate, make sure that they all fit. They're about the same size. Now this one's a little bit too small. I added a pinch more, and of course that one's a little bit too big. Take a pinch off of that. and it fits all the way through. There we go. All right, so I'm going to continue making I'm going to make about 8 of these at a time, and then we will work on the flowers. Okay, so I'm going to work at 8 at a time, and I have 8 here at number 7, and we're going to put these in the bag, and we're going to just Ziploc it so they stay fresh and soft. Put that aside. Now, I learned this nifty little trick from Nicholas Lodge. He just roll the paste out into a log until it's about almost all the way across. To about there. A little bit further. And you want to make sure it's even, and then you want to just cut it right in half. Now, then you pinch this together to even it out. Same with this side. Now, you want to give them a little bit of a roll. You don't have to roll them too much. Now we're going to put a little bit of cornstarch on our flour. We're going to use this particular flour right here in this mold. This one right here. And this is used for hydrangeas and dogwoods and many other 4-leaf flowers. And then we're going to put a crisscross pattern here and push down. This was such a brilliant idea. When I saw Nicholas Lodge do this, I thought, wow, that's a really cool idea. It really kind of forms the flower a little bit. Now, you want to get your cosmetic sponge, and you just press it in, or you can use your fingers. I would use your fingers until you get it pretty much close to the edge. And then you can use the cosmetic sponge to finish it off and get it over to the edges. You want to make sure that you don't have anything in the center here, that this is a very clean flower. You just want to press down a little bit. All right, then you can peel your flower out. Okay, then you have a pattern of the dogwood. So then what we're going to do is turn it upside down on our pad, and we're going to get a ball tool and just thin out the edges a little bit. You don't want to do it too much. Just get your edges thinned out. If it sticks a little bit, then put your balling tool in some cornstarch a little and just kind of roll it out a little bit. Just very lightly thinning the edges. Okay, then we turn this around. Now the dogwood has a distinctive pushing in of the petals. So we're going to take our companion tool, and we're just going to push in. Give it a little push. As you can see with one of these finished ones, that the center of each petal is pushed in a little bit. So that's what we're going to do to each one of these petals. Push it in, and push it in. Okay. Then we are going to place our petal on our cosmetic sponge that has a hole in the center. You want a hole in the center of your cosmetic sponge. Place the flower directly down, and then you get your balling tool, or actually you can do this with the companion tool. You just press down to cup it. Give it a cupping. Okay. Then the next thing you're going to do is get one of your centers, and you get a little bit of edible glue. I have my edible glue over here, and you just put just a dab of it around the base. not much. You don't want too much. And then we're going to push our center through the center of the cosmetic sponge. Then you push it through the center of the cosmetic sponge, pull it up, and give it a boost. Okay, and then you just want to, on the underside, just make sure that it goes all the way. Just make sure that it attaches on the underside all the way around. And then you want to give your flower a little bit of a pull, and this cups it. And then we're going to get our drying rack, and we're going to dry it upside down for about maybe 10 minutes. You don't want it to, it doesn't have to completely dry upside down. Just 10 minutes will do it. Just enough that it stays slightly cupped. So, all right, so now we're on to our next one. I'm going to make a few of these, and then I will finish off before we get started on coloring. All right, so you want to make sure you knead it each time just to condition it. You roll it nicely, and then you roll it into a log. And you want to roll it evenly, so one end's not thinner than the other. There, that's good enough. Right there, and then you want to cut it about halfway. And then we're going to just smooth out the end that was cut. And then we're going to put it on our flower, pressing that one in, pressing this one in, and then you can either get your finger or a cosmetic sponge and just fill in this area, fill in the pattern of the mold. And by pressing on it, it gives it the flower veining. Okay, so you want to make sure that you press in really well, and then you want to make sure that you don't have any pieces that are sticking out here. All right, then we're going to turn it over and going to peel it out. Sometimes if it sticks, before you put your gum paste in here, you want to use a little bit of cornstarch. So the next one I make, I'm going to add some cornstarch because it is sticking a little bit. It's very humid here. There we go. All right, so then we're going to turn it upside down, and we're going to roll out the edges just a little bit. You don't have to do much, just to thin it out a little. And then we turn it back over, and we're going to take our companion tool, and we're going to get this out of the way, and we're just going to press in the center, and another press. You want to be careful that you don't press your thumb down on the flower, because then you don't want all of that beautiful veining to disappear. So if you're having problems where you're pressing, you can just bring it over to the edge and then just do the pressing in like that. All right, and then we put it over on the cosmetic sponge, and we press the center in, make a nice cup there, and then we take another one of our centers and we put a little bit of edible glue around it. You don't need much, because if you use too much, then it's all going to get sticky. And then you push it through the center, bring it up, and then you can take it out of the sponge, and then you want to pinch around the bottom part just to make sure that it sticks. And then you just kind of cup it a little bit. Just bring the petals up a little bit so it's cupped a little. And then we're going to hang it upside down to dry, for partially dry actually. And then we'll move on to the next one. I'll do one more, and then I'm going to finish all of my flowers before we move on to coloring. So let's get one more. And we're going to knead it. Even though we did put them into balls already, I do like to knead them each time, because you can make sure that they are just the condition that they need to be in, that there's no cracks. And we're going to roll this out. And you want to make sure both sides are even, that you don't have one side that is thicker than the other. And then we're going to cut it in half and then smooth out the end piece. I'm going to put a little cornstarch on my mold, and then we're going to press one in, and then we will press the other in the opposite direction. And then we just want to press the gum paste into the mold. And you can use your cosmetic sponge. And the cosmetic sponge helps make sure it's nice and even. Okay, then you want to actually make sure that you don't have the gum paste overlapping where the petals change here, because then you won't get that actual petal. Okay, I'm pretty funny about that, where I always go back and check. I want to make sure that you're not going to have gum paste hanging out, and then it doesn't look as nice. All right. Okay, now we're going to press out our petal and see how much easier it came out this time, because I added some cornstarch to the mold. And we have the veining in there. Turn it upside down. Actually, I'm going to use the black end this time, because I think the green end is a little bit firmer, so I want it to be a little bit softer. So we're going to soften it a little bit. You can go all the way around. Just soften the edge. That's all you need, is softening the edge. Okay, then we're going to turn it around. We're going to get our companion tool, and we're going to press in the center. Press in, and press in. All right, and then we're going to place it on our cosmetic sponge and get our companion tool, the balling part, and press in so we can cup the flower. We're going to get one of our centers and a little bit of edible glue, just a tiny bit, whoops, a little bit too much there, just a tiny bit on the base. And then we're going to press it through and make sure it grasps onto the flower, and then pinch the bottom to make sure that it adheres to the wire. And then we're going to cup it up a little bit. Just give it a little bit of cupping. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. And then we'll turn it upside down to dry for about 10 minutes. And this one's been drying for about 10 minutes already, and it can be dried up right now because it's already partially dried here, and it's stayed cupped. It's firm, I can feel it. So now we can just add this one into our flower drying. There. And we can and then we can finish the drying here. It'll take about 2 hours to completely dry before we can start coloring them. So I'm going to finish the rest of my centers and flowers, get them all dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the finishing touches by coloring them and steaming them. Okay, so now our flowers are finished and they have dried at least a couple of hours. I actually dried them more because it is very humid out here. All right, so now we're going to color our flowers and bring them to life. We're going to do a light pink flower. So I've chosen the color Cosmos, and it's a very pretty color. And for the tips of the flowers, we are going to darken where we did the indent. And I have a darker color here. I kind of just pre-mixed this. I believe I used American Beauty with a little bit of the Cosmos, and I just gave a darker color. And you just want to shade darker. It doesn't have to be super dark. These finished ones, there's see the tips of where we pushed in the indent. We have a darker pink in there. And then I also have lime. And this color lime, we're going to color the center a little bit, and then we're going to also put a little bit on the underside of the flowers. And I have a couple of brushes. I'm going to use this one for the center, and because we're just going to pounce in color. And then this one we're going to use for both of the pinks. So what I'm going to do is color all the flowers in the light pink, and then I'm going to go back and use the same brush and dip it into the darker pink and then finish the edges. So let's start off with the lighter pink. This is a beautiful color. I absolutely love this color. All right, so we're going to take a flower and all right, so now we're going to just brush from the outside in. And the reason why I start out with white is because you want to give, these are kind of delicate flowers, you want to give them a translucent look. If you want something deeper, then you would color the gum paste, and then you would have a deeper all-around color pink. But I do like these in a more translucent look. So we just start out with white. And you want to brush from the outside in. From the outside in. Oop. There we go. And you don't want to put too much on your brush because you don't want to get all that color all over the center. So you just want to color all around, and then you could tap it out, lightly tap it out. And then we're going to color the underside the same. I'm just going to do a couple of flowers to show you, and then I'm going to finish off all my flowers. And then once I finish all the flowers, then we're going to steam them. And steaming them will set the colors in. All right, so now if you want a little bit more darker color, then you just brush in more color. All right, now I am going to show you how to do the edges. I'll just have to clean off my brush so we don't get that dark color on the other flowers before we do the edges. All right, as you can see, it really brings out the edge pieces right here. I mean, it looks so gorgeous. I love these. Their dogwoods are so beautiful, and they come in so many great colors. I mean, they come in white, and if you want to just make white ones, you still want to color dust the white. If you're making white dogwoods, what I like to do is use super pearl and just dust them with super pearl, and it gives it just a nice shine. And then when you steam them, it just really makes them pop. All right, so then we have the colors on here, and then we're going to let's get a little bit of green. This is, like I said, the lime green. Whoops. Looks like I hadn't opened this one before. I do have another one open, so I guess I just pulled the wrong one out, but that's okay. So this one's going over here. We're going to get some of this lime green, and we're going to just dab the center. Dab, 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 dab. And then you want to get a little bit around the flower at the base of the center, just to make it look like the pollen is a little bit on the flower. And then you want to turn it upside down, and you want to bring the color a little bit on the back of the flower. And it just gives the flower a more realistic look. So there you have a beautiful dogwood in a very light pink, and then you have some dark pink edges on it, and we pounced in some color in the center to make that pop more, and we did a little bit on the underside. So I'm going to do, I'll do one more, and then I'm going to go through all of these flowers. So we're just gonna, you want to pull it through and pull it in. Pull it in. Okay. Turn upside down, tap it, and then we're going to do the underside. So we're going to get a little bit of green. We're just going to dab, 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 and make sure you get a little bit on the flower at where the center meets the flower. And then we're going to put a little bit of color on the base underneath. And this will basically be similar to a calyx. All right, and then we're going to get our deeper pink, and we're just going to deepen the color where we did our indent. All right. Okay, and there you have another beautiful dogwood. All right, so I'm going to go through all of these flowers, and when I'm finished coloring my flowers, then we're going to steam them. Okay, we now have all of our flowers colored, and the centers are done, and the outside of the petals are done. So now the last step we're going to do is steam them. So I have set up here, I have my steamer, and you just want to give it a quick steam. Let's see here. Trying to make sure I have a good steam burst. You don't want to steam them too much because then they'll start wilting. But you want to steam them enough so that the colors will set. There we go. That's it. That's all you need to do. And there you have these beautiful flowers. The color is set with the steam and it brings them out and just makes them absolutely gorgeous. They're so pretty. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Dogwood flowers are so beautiful. The blossoms are they're so delicate and dainty, and they come in some beautiful colors. I would love to see your dogwood flowers. If you can post some over in our Facebook group, and let's see what yours looks like. I would love to see them. I would love to see what colors you picked out. Okay, bye for now.